Former Georgia special prosecutor Nathan Wade is back in the headlines. Of course he is. Wade, who was forced to resign from the Trump case, claims that the former president could still face trial, wait for it, even if he wins in November.
If Trump wins the election and the district attorney next spring, when this does go before the Court of Appeals, is not disqualified from that, is it constitutional for a district attorney to put a sitting president on trial, and if he's convicted, in jail potentially?
So let's look at the question in reverse. Are you asking me if there's anyone who's above the law at any point in time in their life?
No, but I don't think it's been litigated about a sitting president, of course, going on trial. We've never seen that.
Never seen it, never expected to see it.
Do you believe he can be on trial if he's in the White House?
I do believe that he can. Okay. I don't believe that it looks good to the rest of the world, but certainly I don't think that there's anything that would prevent that from happening.
What if he's convicted?
I don't understand the question. If he's convicted, then just like any other defendant who's convicted, then you go through the sentencing process.
So it would not look good to the rest of the world, but let's do it, Paul. Let's do it.
So we're expected to believe that Fani Willis had to hire that guy to run a complex RICO. That's why she hired him, because of his legal acumen. Yeah, okay. All right, so look, that case went up on appeal because the appeals court in Georgia was willing to accept it, which probably means they're going to come down on the side of the defense. Among the asks in the appeal is to get rid of the case altogether, aside from just getting rid of Fani. The entire case. I think it's going to go that way. I think they're going to bounce the entire case. Even if they keep the indictment and they lose her whole office goes with that, in which case it's an orphan indictment. And there's a whole rigmarole for that. Forget that case. It's almost not. You're more likely to see Nathan Wade charged criminally, and here's why. Because if the AG would impanel a grand jury, special grand jury, which AG Card down there has the power to do, you go after those text messages, and you're going to get in black and white the fact that they committed perjury. Fani and Nathan Wade committed perjury under oath. But nobody seems to be willing to go after that. I don't know why. Last point, even if it gets to a trial, Governor Kemp is in until 2026. He has the power to pardon. And he likely, despite I know they're not on the same page, he would likely pardon just to avoid that show trial.
So to your point, watch how complicated and uncomfortable it gets when Nathan Wade is asked about the timeline of his relationship.
Just to clarify, when did the romantic relationship between the two of you start?
Yeah, so, you know, we get into, I'm getting signaled here. No, then we
Yeah, take it. Want to go off mic for a second?
Yes.
Okay. Go off mic for a second.
Keep rolling?
Yeah, keep rolling. Don't stop down there. Stay at speed. Okay, we're good. We asked.
Everything okay?
Yeah.
Just to revisit the question, it was to clarify when the romantic relationship started and when it ended.
Sure. So, you know, I believe that the public has, through the testimony and other interviews, the public has a clear snapshot that this is clearly just a distraction.
I mean, why did he need a timeout?
Okay, I've been in this business 20 years. That is a very rare occurrence.
Yes.
For someone mid-interview to be pulled by their handler, and that's what happened. The follow-up could have been stronger, but who knows what the terms were of the interview, you know, how they were set up before he agreed to do it. At the same time, what I find so interesting is that he avoided it in my mind because I think he's worried about more legal repercussions against him and against Fani Willis. Because remember, she's fighting now with Trump's attorneys. She's trying to stay on the case. And she's hanging on by a thread right now. Maybe there's still some love there between Fani and Nathan. I don't know.
Yes. Well, moving on to a different legal matter, Hunter Biden. I want you to watch this closely because I am very confused. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked during a gaggle yesterday if President Biden would commute Hunter's sentence. We know he said he wouldn't pardon. Would he commute it? She answered very differently than she did on September 15th, 2023. Watch the two answers.
You're not ruling out that you would commute the sentence.
What I'm saying is that the president, I have not spoken to the president about this, and what I'm saying is he was asked about a pardon. He was asked about he was asked about the trial specifically, and he answered it very clearly, very forthright. As we know, the sentencing hasn't even been scheduled yet. I don't have anything beyond what the president said. He's been very clear about this.
Second one, would the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no.
That's confusing. That's a change.
Yes, it is. I think she's clearly leaving the door open for America to accept, frankly, a commutation inevitably, which who would be surprised given the person at the helm. You were making some great points about Hunter. I want to just give you some space to make them, too.
I just think that their real risk here is that he is a vulnerability if he were to be facing jail and flip. And I know that's people, oh, my God, he'd never flip. If you read the text messages and some of the stuff that's in evidence already in the cases he's facing, there's no love loss between Hunter and some of the members of the Biden family. Let's just put it this way. He's not on the same page with Jill. He's got issues with the uncle. I think the uncle is actually the one that's the most vulnerable, particularly in the area of the Chinese money. They can't afford to have him turn hostile. And that's why once his legal troubles concretized, all of a sudden he's at the White House, he's on the plane, he's going to the, on trips with Joe Biden. They're keeping him close.
You know, Kayleigh, I want to give Karine Jean-Pierre the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she just heard pardon back in September and gave an answer. But the grace that she's given for this not to be a headline on every major news station would not have been given to the Trump administration. You had to be perfectly clear on your answer on an issue like this.
So true. And I don't think we should believe a single word that comes out of this president's mouth, out of this White House, when it comes to Hunter Biden. Because, you know, if Biden loses in November and realizes that his time in D.C. is short, does anyone actually think he won't pardon his son or commute his sentence? Right. Or even if he does win and realizes that no one's going to hold him accountable, you think that he won't do the exact same thing? Of course he will. And I know that there have been reports that Biden was personally stunned by the jury's verdict. But listen, if I'm Joe Biden, this is actually the best case scenario because you're entering into a heated campaign where this topic is going to come up. And now you can say that your Justice Department has taken action, has held Hunter Biden accountable for crimes that conveniently are the only ones alleged that do not implicate Joe Biden himself. You are essentially able to sweep this under the rug moving forward. So I think that more is in store later down the road.
Gosh, a lot of questions that could be asked in a White House press briefing. If we ever get one, it's been a long time since we had one.
Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.